Mm-hmm.
Whereas among the Christians, ignorant as they are, the overwhelming majority of them men
Mm-hmm.
basically all say don't profit after Jesus or whatever. Don't recognize you.
Subhanallah. Subhanallah. Jazakallah khairan. Thank you for the input. Fadal akhi. Thank you, Surah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Clear. Question and the faida was mentioned before the question, the benefit about the differences and of attitude regarding Jews and Christians towards the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. As far as Christians who acknowledge the Prophet, or they acknowledge the monotheism, the oneness of God, without the Trinity, etc., what is our position towards them? What do we say? Are they guided? What advice can we give them to give them the final push to be actually Muslim, etc.? Then knowledge is one thing. Acknowledgement is another thing. Submission and acceptance is a total different story. So many people in the time of the Prophet, they knew who he was, and they may have acknowledged him inside, but they didn't submit. They didn't accept. Allah Azza wa Jalla, He tells us about Fir'aun and the people of Fir'aun regarding Musa, فَلَمَّا جَاءَتْهُمْ آيَاتُنَا مُبْصِرَةً قَالُوا هَذَا سِحْرٌ مُبِينٌ. Allah says, and when our signs came to them, which were clear as day, they said this is plain sorcery, this is magic. And then Allah Azza wa Jalla, He says, وَجَحَدُوا بِهَا وَاسْتَيْقَنَتْهَا أَنفُسُهُمْ ظُلْمًا وَعُلُوًا. And they rejected our signs, they belied them, even though their souls had certainty. Zulman, out of oppression, and ulu, being haughty. So a person has to have the total package. He has to know, he has to acknowledge, he has to accept, he has to submit, everything. Alright? So they bear witness that Muhammad ﷺ is their messenger, just like Isa was once a messenger. And if they don't do that, then they are kuffar. And they will fall into the category of those who knew the truth and went away from it. That's first and foremost. Secondly is that what advice can you give to them? You tell them that it is not an option. It is an optional. This is the last commandment of God Almighty, according to what you acknowledge. You have to accept it. And I think that oftentimes many people, they make a mistake when they give da'wah to Christians. Not all of the time, but sometimes. And that is bashing Christians. And bashing their scriptures and bashing their books. It doesn't make sense. It's cut and paste and this and that. That's not always the right way. Because then they turn around and do the same with the Quran. Or the same with Islam. And that's what we live in today. People attacking the Prophet, attacking the Sharia, so on and so forth. But oftentimes, to show them, like, look, you have a building, a beautiful building, a palace. Palace is wonderful, masterful, but there's one stone that's missing. That's a key cornerstone, and that is what Islam is. So everything that you believe in as a Christian, of your good values, Islam has and even more. Islam has and even more. So it's not an option, it's not a choice. This is the last message. And the proof that it's the last message, first and foremost, is common sense, history. Secondly, show me, let's open the Quran and let's read about Mary and Joseph and Jacob and Jonah and Isaac and Abraham, all there. The Trinity is mention of Adam, who deserves to be God's son more than Jesus. It's there. But you can't say that same about your book. So that clearly shows you that you have historical order. This is the last command. What would you listen to if you were a soldier? What your superior told you at 1 p.m. when you were traveling to the battlefield? Or what he told you at 3 p.m. in the midst of battle? Retreat right now. No, he told us to fight. But the new orders came in, fresh orders at 3 p.m. directly from him. Retreat, cancel the attack. Obviously, the professional soldier is going to say what? It's time to retreat, because this is the final commandment from our superior. And no fool is going to stick to what he said 2 hours ago. And if he did stick to what he said 2 hours ago, even if it was something virtuous, fight. When he got back to headquarters, he will be court-martialed. Without a question. Did you not receive my message? Yes, I did, sir. Why didn't you obey? Why didn't you listen? You lost the lives of these men. He'd be court-martialed. Which makes more sense? That was a command only to the cowardly? No. That was a command that I gave 2 hours after I gave my initial orders. So it only makes sense to follow the last message. So to prove to the people that this is the last message, and that can be done, as I said, in historical order. Secondly, look in the Quran. Jesus, Mary, it's there. So it's something more, it's something extra. And you don't always have to go to the attack of attacking and finding fault, which that has a place too. That has a place too to show you that this scripture is not from God. This book is not the book of God. This religion is tampered with by men. That's crystal clear. But we don't always have to go on that level of offense yet. Everyone understand this? So everything that a good Christian or practicing Christian has of basic values, the Quran has more of, and more solid and more refined principles and values. Everyone understand? The same applies to a Christian holiday, Christmas. Be generous. It's a good thing. Give to the poor, give to the needy, spend on your family. It's all good values. All of that is found in Islam, but even more, and with a better discipline, instead of just wasting and being a spendthrift. So you have to use hikmah when you give dawah to these people, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. Hey Sheikh, كيف حالك? How you feeling?
Is the Jews they give it to in the airport to the Jews, the traveler?
Okay.
To
Subhanallah.
give them.
Jazakallah khairan.
English. Bye.
Interesting. تفضل.
Mrs. AA from Montreal. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. Beloved Sheikh. Is it permissible to sell registered legal firearm to the co-founder, owner to owner, not selling it in store? Barakallahu feek.
Question is it permissible to sell legal firearms to non-Muslims? Is it permissible to sell registered firearms to non-Muslims? In brief. And the question comes from Montreal, you said? Tight. Al-Muhim, it's permissible to buy and sell in Islam. And it's permissible to buy and sell anything until it is clearly proven to be haram. Clearly proven to be haram. And a product which is haram to sell could be of one or two reasons. The first is that it's haram itself. And the second reason is that the actual product isn't haram, but it will be used in a way which is going to be haram. So the selling of the flesh of swine is haram, no question. Selling idols is haram. Selling alcohol is haram. There's no doubt about that. But a person, he may sell something which is permissible, but it could be abused and made into a haram way, like grapes. You have a vineyard or a farm, you sell grapes. Selling grapes is permissible, but someone who makes wine, a winemaker, professional or a homemaker, he makes his own wine. He comes to you and he asks for grapes, a specific type of grapes. And you either know for sure, or you think in most cases that the grapes are going to be used for wine. Then obviously it becomes impermissible to sell grapes to that person. But the grapes themselves aren't necessarily haram. So the same pertains to firearms. A firearm is harmless. It's like a kitchen knife. Pocket knife, kitchen knife, same thing. The human being is the one who takes the weapon and shoots or stabs and kills someone. So a firearm is permissible, just like any other type of tool or weapon or thing that is lawful to sell in Islam and also in the laws of the modern world. But who you sell it to and what atmosphere and what environment, that's a different story. So the ulama of Islam, they have explained about selling weapons at the time of fitna, and it shouldn't be done even to a Muslim. When the Muslims are fighting, if the Muslims are at civil war, And one should not sell weapons to Muslims. One should not sell weapons to Muslims in civil war. So if that's the rule of selling weapons to a Muslim, because in most cases they're going to use on another Muslim, then what about selling it to someone who made, etc. But that does not mean that every single non-Muslim is fighting a Muslim. It doesn't mean that. Kuffar are different types, different locations. Doesn't mean that. So it depends on where you are. It depends on who you're selling to. It depends on what you think. The best thing to do is to avoid it and stay away from it. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best.
This was BN from Cleveland, Ohio.
Any other questions here, brothers, from the sisters, before we move further, akhi? Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. MashaAllah. Nice to meet you, akhi. Muhammad. So, question is regarding the Quran supposedly saying that if there is no one, I can answer the question, inshallah, because that wording is not in the Quran. So what I'm saying is actually accurate. Yes, there's no ayah. If you can show me, excuse me, alhamdulillah. If you would like to show me, I'll be more than humble to accept that. But that wording is not. Well, I can answer it, but not if you cut me off. Inshallah. If you want me, my humble opinion, then you have to at least allow me to say it. If you have the answer, that's fine. But if you want to ask me, then it is my right to actually speak. Inshallah. No, that's not true. Not at all. Next question, inshallah. Fadal. You've lost the opportunity to get the question. Fadal.
This was BN from Cleveland, Ohio. Does the Quran have to be recited in sequence?
The question comes from Ohio. Does the Quran have to be recited in sequence? The ayat, yes. The surahs, no. You cannot recite ayat backwards. But the surahs, you can recite Surah Al-Buruj in one rak'ah and recite Surah Al-Baqarah in the next rak'ah. There's nothing wrong with that. But the ayat must be recited in sequence. And Allah knows best.
Initials KWAN from Copenhagen, Denmark. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you. And may the best day be the day to meet Allah. If the deen is left as if the night is day, why then so many opinions?
The question comes from Denmark. If the deen was left like so clear, so bright that is the nighttime is like the daytime, why is there so much difference of opinion? Jazakallah khairan for the question, and thank you very much for the dua. Oftentimes, difference of opinion is not from the deen, but it's from those who claim to follow the deen. But oftentimes the deen is free from these different views that are made up, that did not exist at a period or a point of time. That's first and foremost. Secondly is, as we explained the other night in the live stream, in the Lu'lu Marjan class about the tafsir, is that you may find 4 opinions on the tafsir of an ayah, but in actuality all 4 opinions may just be one, but it's different manifestations of it. Okay, so we have two main answers here. The first is all of these different views and the opinions are not from the deen, opinions of men. Everyone understand this? But the deen itself, if you actually look at it, is extremely simple and clear. Secondly, there are different views in which, in actuality, they aren't contradictory. They all mean the same thing. Or if there's 7 of them, you can exclude 5 of them. 5 of them actually lead to 1. Or 3 of them have no textual basis. So the deen is not going to be blamed for that which someone brings up and says, which has no textual basis. You understand this? Another point is that the clarity of the religion and the understanding of the religion is on different levels. There is a clarity of the religion that every single Muslim must have. Every Muslim must have. A clarity on the religion that every single Muslim must have. Basic things. Worship Allah and don't make no shirk. There's no discrepancy about that. Zina is haram. Alcohol is haram. You have to pray, etc. And then there's a clarity of the religion which is going to be by those who speak the Arabic language. They understand certain words and certain Quranic principles and Islamic principles more than those who don't speak the Arabic language or understand the Arabic language. And that's how it is. Why is that? Everyone's not an Arab. It's not about ethnicity. It's about language and understanding. All right? Obviously, the one who speaks Hebrew, hypothetically, is going to have a better understanding of the Jewish scriptures. Someone who's learned it in Latin is going to understand certain Christian principles much more than someone who doesn't speak Latin. That's how it is. Thirdly is the level of those who are learned, those who have knowledge, fiqh, ilm. The clarity of the religion to them is not like the clarity of those who don't have that knowledge. The clarity of a scholar, the clarity of a learned person is not like the clarity of someone who isn't learned. Are you understand this? And there are going to be some things in the religion which are only known by Allah Azza wa Jalla. Only known to Him, subhanahu wa ta'ala, what is actually meant. So it's different levels. If you want more clarity, then I'll provide you with two things. The first is to learn more. And the second is to cut out the middlemen. Go to an older source, more ancient and classical texts. You'll find a purer understanding and interpretation of the deen. And Allah knows best.
I have a question, man. Is there any time during the Meccan period, the Prophet ﷺ, when he sought the authority, the power to establish Islam as a form of Testament?
The question is there any time in the Meccan period in which the Prophet ﷺ sought power or authority to establish some type of miniature government or miniature authority in Mecca before Medina? I don't know of a specific situation that's authentic. I don't know of one. Rather, the atmosphere in Mecca was very different than that of Medina with regards to numbers and, more importantly, with regards to actual legislation. All of the legislation wasn't sent down. Most of the legislation wasn't sent down. So it was only but so much leadership and authority that was going to be there. In contrast to Medina, in which the legislation was being sent down in the specifics of leading them in battle, their wealth, marriage, etc. All right? Let alone the fact that the Muslims were being persecuted and oppressed. And they were a minority. And there was a very hostile and volatile environment in Mecca. And one of the main reasons why they didn't allow Islam to flourish was because of fear of losing authority. So I don't know of a specific situation like that in Mecca. And I'll say this, whether this is the intention of the question or not, but many people have this understanding. We spoke about this in Philly a couple weeks ago, that we're living in the Meccan period, in which we can't do certain things, or we should do certain things. We're not living in the Meccan period, and it's impermissible to say that. No matter how much of a minority the Muslims are in New York City or in America or in the world, we're not in the Meccan period. And making that statement could be an act of kufr, because Allah has told us, Al-Yawma akmaltu lakum dinakum. On this day, I have perfected your deen. And that was a long time ago. So the legislation is perfect. The application of the legislation may differ. In America, we can't do that because we're the minority. We may not have this form of government because of this, but it does not mean that the rules aren't there. All right, so we are not in the Meccan period, and the Muslims should try to do their best of implementing the Sharia, whether it's pertaining to organizing, establishing, as long as it doesn't go against the principles of Islam as a whole. And Allah knows best.
This was UK from Durham. MC. Song of Shit. Allah preserve you. What is the ruling on writing a speech for someone to give on their anniversary?
Question comes from North Carolina. Writing a speech for someone to give on their anniversary. Stay away from it. You don't feel comfortable with it, don't do it. Khalas. Our anniversary is haram in Islam. That's a discussion in itself. What's important is that you shouldn't do anything which causes you to have any type of doubt. Let them come up with their own speech. Let them speak how they wish to speak on their own anniversary. Leave it alone, inshallah ta'ala. And they have to humbly respect your view and your position. At the end of the day, no matter what anniversary it is, marriage, business, whatever type of anniversary it is, the Muslim is commanded to be reflectful all the time. The Muslim is commanded to treat his partner kindly and honorably all of the time. If you sit down and you reflect, this is the day in which we got married. That's human nature. You can't help that. Your birthday comes by. You can't help and reflect, I'm a year older. But making a party, making a celebration, making something formal, that could be possibly problematic. Wallahu a'lam. تفضل حسن حياك الله. موافق، لا شك في هذا، لا شك. يعني الهدي النبوي أن الركعة الأولى كانت أطول من الثانية، نتفق على هذا. لكن قضية الترتيب يعني بغض النظر عن الطول أو القصر. هذا هو يكون أقرب. جزاك الله خير. صحيح، من حيث العموم يعني أن الواحد يمشي مع ترتيب، لا شك في هذا، هذا أحسن وأضبط. لكن هناك بعض الناس يعترض ويقول هذا لا يجوز، يقول لا يجوز. هذا هو الإشكال. والله أعلم. جزاك الله خيرا حسن، بارك الله فيك. تفضل. وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. Clear. Question says, crystal clear. Crystal clear. If your wife makes adultery, can you perform the hudud on her in this country?
On her and the guy she's committed adultery.
On the one that you catch her with, etc.
Yeah.
Right. I would humbly say is that if a man catches his wife making adultery, he cannot perform any type of punishment on her, not in this country or in a time and a place in which the Sharia is being implemented. It's impermissible to do that. And that is because if he accuses his wife of making the zina, is one or two scenarios. The first scenario is that he has his witnesses to prove that she did that act. And the second scenario is that he doesn't have his witnesses, but he saw it. I walked in, it was clear as day, it's no doubt about it, she was with another man, but he still does not have his witnesses. In either of these two situations, it is unlawful for him to accuse her of zina. And it is unlawful, let alone for him to put hudud on her in here or any other country, unless he has those witnesses. So obviously, what is a man to do? I saw my wife doing it. I know for sure she did it, but I can't prove it. Then, as we said, you do that which is called al-mula'ana, in which he swears by Allah a certain amount of times is that she is lying and he's telling the truth. After they both swear, as mentioned in the Quranic Kareem, Surah 24 and Nur, they are separated eternally. They can never ever remarry, and the child is not attributed to him. So you catch your wife making adultery, and then later she bears a son, and you've done this practice, this mula'ana, that child is not called your son. He's not attributed to you. And you can never ever remarry that woman. No matter what the case, it is unlawful for you to do anything to them, regardless of the kuffar laws, the hypocritical laws of this country or any other country. The hudud have regulations, and it is unlawful in an Islamic state for those regulations to be ignored and neglected. Even though you saw it, I know, I saw it with my own two eyes, but that doesn't mean it's sufficient for the specific punishment to be put on her. Secondly, the hudud are not to be implemented by an individual. The criminal punishments in Islam and the Sharia, they're implemented by the Islamic government, the Islamic imam, the hakim, the Muslim, the Islamic ruler. And he is the one who looks into the evidence and investigates and determines what happens to the thief or the drunkard or the fornicator or the adulterer. But it's not the person who catches them, let alone husband and wife. And that's because obviously it's going to be a conflict of intention and motive. I can't take a husband's statement over a wife or a wife's statement over a husband. He says she's lying, she says he's lying. Like, who am I supposed to believe? And they sleep in one bed together. It's obvious reasons why someone would lie. But the man saw it. And that's why Allah Azza wa Jalla, He gave you that way out, in which you're not stuck no matter what. I can't prove that she did it, but I know that she did it with my own two eyes. So therefore, we make that process and she goes her way, I go mine. That's not my son. So that's the proper Islamic procedure with regards to this, based off of the Quranic guidance. And it is unlawful for anyone to put the punishment on any person in the incorrect Islamic system, here or what? Any other country. Clear, inshallah? That's my answer. Fadal. Fadal. It's not a problem.
What if it's the leader's wife?
The leader's wife. Question says, what if it's the leader's wife, the Muslim leader's wife? It's a very good question. Obviously, he is the leader, but due to the fact that it's his wife, it now goes back to that problem that I just mentioned, conflict of interest. So therefore, if that happens, it is the leader's wife, then there has to be someone else that has to look into it. And they have to have blind justice. We have to look at this woman, not as your wife, for or against. For or against. Now, once the evidence is proven and established, whoever stones or beats a witch, that's a different story. That's a different story. But the detective, the investigator, the judge, is not supposed to be the relative. I would understand there's a huge difference between the two. My son's proven guilty that he did this crime, and I say, I want to flog him myself. I want to beat him myself. The Muslim ruler may say, go ahead. Or the other body of the Islamic government, they say, go ahead to the ruler. Go ahead, it's your wife. You do it. Tafadhal. Who better to beat your wife than you? They may say, Allahu A'lam. But it doesn't mean that he's the one who's doing the what? The investigative work. Because he may look for or against her and biasness. And there's a huge difference between the two. Huge difference between the two. Everyone understand this? Huge difference between the two. So one doing it is one thing. One proving it is what? Total different. Clear? تفضل. فهمت. طيب يعني السؤال هل يعتمد على هذه الأشياء في إقامة الحدود؟ فهمت. جميل. هو الآن شيخ عبد الله بارك الله فيك، هذا قد ينقلب عليك. أوريك الآن كما أنك تصور وتأتي بمقطع يعني مرئي، في ناس يتلاعب بهذه الأشياء. هناك أصوات، وهناك الرأس يغير الرأس ويبدل هذا ويغير الضوء. هذه الأشياء التقنيات فيها السحر يعني. حتى ولو قد نقول قد يستأنس بها. أما نحن نعتمد على صورة، هذا لابد يعني نستوثق نتأكد. الله عز وجل قال 4 شهداء. عرفت كيف؟ انتبه الآن، خليك معي. 4 رجال عدول صالحين، ناس عاقلين، صعب عليهم يتفقوا على الكذب، صعب عليهم كلهم يعني يغفلوا عما شاهدوا، صعب. صورة، صوت، هذا قد يدخل ما يدخل. هذا أنا أقول قد. مثلا في الأنساب، هل تثبت الأنساب بالدي ان اي؟ قد يقال وقد لا يقال، لأن هذه الأشياء تدخلها الأغلاط وأكاذيب ومشاكل، تدخل هذه الأشياء خاصة الفيديوهات. قد يصير، لكن نحن نبعدها تماما، نقول لا نتنكب، لا. القاضي ينظر فيها، لكن الاعتماد عليها يعني كأنه يحتاج شيء من التأني، والله أعلم. لكن الفائدة جيدة. جزاك الله خيرا.
Sheikh,
No translation.
In this scenario, what if it was
Next question.
video camera?
Next question. Next question. Next question. تفضل.
هذه يعني سبحان الله يعني بيقول يعني ربنا سبحانه وتعالى بيقول آتوا بأربع شهداء. هذه يقول لك يعني نوع من يعني the blessing from Allah that give you a chance to make tawbah.
بلا شك. الستر.
يا ستر. الغامدية راحت للرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم قالت له أنا أحب لها بالزنا قال لها ارجعي فتوبي ثاني ارجعي فتوبي في النهاية يعني
الناس إنهم تسرع في هذه الأشياء.
when she came the last time she said okay you know what we're gonna do إن شاء الله روحي ارضعيها وبعد 2 ساعات رجعت ثاني للحدود.
صح هذا هو هذا الأصل.
هذا الأصل إنه ربنا غفور يعني.
يكون القاضي متأني بهذه الأشياء. يعني كما جاء في حديث ماعز ألا سترته بثوب. انظر النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول هلا سترت علي حتى ما الشاهد. Oh, Jazakallah khairan. You said that was the last question, Jihad? You promised us. Islam, what did he say? Faddal. Bismillah. No problem. Faddal.
What I wanted to ask you was, I almost forgot. Just hold on for a minute. Let me think about it.
We'll come back, inshallah. No problem. La bas, no problem. Faddal. Who's next? Faddal Nafis. We done? Khalas?
UK from Durham. So if someone is not getting along with their siblings that they live with, and they avoid them as much as they can, not to see them, is that considered cutting ties?
Question comes from the UK. Where? Durham, North Carolina. Excuse me. Initials UK. Right. If someone can't get along with their sibling, and they try their best to avoid them as much as they can, to avoid clash or conflict, is that considered to be cutting the ties of kin or kith? Yes and no. Yes and no. From one aspect, of course, you're intentionally avoiding your sibling. And if you avoid them, you don't give them salams, you don't accept their offer, they don't come to your invitation, you don't help them, because you're avoiding them. But from another aspect, it depends on why you're trying to avoid them. You may have someone who's a mocker of the religion. He makes fun of you for how you dress or what you do. Or a person is an evildoer. Or a person is extremely disrespectful to your mother and father, and you have advised them. It depends on what is the reason. At the end of the day, there are levels of relationship in Al-Islam. Levels. Everyone does not share and enjoy the same level. So this person is my blood brother. He needs me, I give him what I have. He invites me, I come to him. But it's not the same as my little sister, who I may love more. My little sister who has a closer relationship to me. There's nothing wrong with that. In Islam, we have 2 basic principles. We have justice, and then we have virtue. Justice and virtue. Justice is that everyone gets a basic minimum standard of treatment. Everyone. Virtue is I give it to a specific person. I have 4 sons. All of them are treated justly. The one who works hard, who's righteous, who's pious, who's obedient, he gets more. But it doesn't mean I oppress the other 3. That's in brief. I believe it's time for the adhan. Jazakumullahu khairan. Wa sallallahu sallam mubarak ala abdihi wa rasulih nabi Muhammad. If you want to finish after the adhan, I don't mind. It's up to the brothers, inshallah. Faddal. Bismillah. Astaghfirullah. Forgive me. La. I'm agreeing to you. Sit down. Sit down.
ما شاء الله. بارك الله فيك جزاك الله خير حبيبي. الحمد لله. تقول أكيد في الرجل إن شاء الله نفس إن شاء الله.
الله أكبر الله أكبر
Islam.
الله أكبر الله أكبر
تفضل أخي.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول
جزاك الله خير.
الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح